Hi everybody, Courtney here to talk to you today about how to be more satisfied in your life and how to want less as a frugal minimalist. This was a request and this is something that I've been doing so long. Some of these requests are often hard for me because I'm like, gosh, I've been doing this so long, I have to really think about it. And the first thing I would say is that you need to acquire knowledge. And so if you're going to do something in life and make a big change like becoming minimalist or frugal, and you haven't been before, you have to have a why, because at the end of the day, when temptation hits you, that why is going to be what keeps you on track. And so I was going to share with you some of the books that I have read over the years. This one is very old. It's called the Tightwad Gazette. I think that it's not in print anymore, but you can find it used. This is the 3-volume set. It was a newsletter in the 90s, but it has tons and tons of ideas on being frugal, but it also gives a lot of the information as to why. And I just understood very quickly that I wanted to have my time over having more things, and that in order to have really nice things or the things that were important to me, I had to decide what I valued versus what I didn't value and not spend money on the things that didn't give me value. So this was one, the Tightwad Gazette. More with Less cookbook has been a staple in my life about cooking with less meat or cooking more vegetarian meals. This book does include meat, but it's a missionary cookbook. So there's a lot of stories in there about people who have less than we do, or people around the world. They have less than we do as far as resources, but they might have more as far as family or health or community. They're rich in ways that we are not rich, ways that bring real value to their life, and the recipes are fantastic. I use this raising my children. The book itself, I could just sit down and read it, and I get joy out of reading it. Another one, and this is not an exhaustive list, is called The Simple Living Guide by Janet Lurs, and it gives stories about people living more simply, deciding to downsize their home, not upgrading all the time. So you have to educate yourself. There are so many books on minimalism, frugality, simplicity, that it's just not that hard. There are YouTube channels, there are TikTok channels. Change the influencers that you watch if they're encouraging you to buy more, to flex, to look wealthy. At the end of the day, also understanding that nobody really cares. People who are impressed by what you drive or what you wear, those aren't really the kind of people you want to be your friends. And people who are constantly shopping for entertainment when you don't have the money and you're going shopping with them, it's only going to put you into debt, and it might be time to find some more friends. The second one is to understand what the hedonic treadmill is and to get off of it. The hedonic treadmill is the always searching for the next dopamine hit by having more. So there's a saying in a book called How to, oh my goodness, I can't remember. It's by Carnegie, but it's how to something, well, it's about depression and anxiety, but it talks about a man who has no shoes, and then he gets a bicycle, and then he gets a bicycle and he wants for a car, and then he gets a car and he wants for an airplane. You know, you get the gist. And so it's like we always think that the next thing is going to buy us happiness, and scientific studies show that that is not the case. When we get to a certain range of living, yes, money can solve a lot of problems. But when we get to a certain area of living where we have a certain amount of money and our needs are met and we can have a few of our wants, then we begin to be comfortable, and it drops off the level of happiness. So I live in a 1,779 square foot house on a farm. It's bigger than I need. Actually went down in size from a bigger house when my kids moved out, and I could really do with less house than this. It's just we had kids at home at the time we built the house. So it's learning that you don't need more is not better. More house would be more money, which would mean we would have to work more. At the end of the day, think about all the people you know. If you're impressed with their things, are you impressed with their things? Are you impressed with their character? I would rather be known for my character than people looking at me for what I drive. If people don't like me because I drive a 10-year-old Honda, those aren't the people I want in my life, right? The next one was to make a list of the things that make you happy. Really think about the things that make you happy. And I don't mean things as in stuff, but sitting down maybe to have a cup of tea or watching a sunset, or maybe you enjoy taking a walk or going to the gym or reading a book or watching a movie. When I was teaching as a solution-focused coach, a stress management specialist, and a yoga teacher, because I also taught philosophy, if you sit down and you write out a list of 10 things that bring you joy or happiness, I would say 10 things that bring you joy is a good way to approach it. You're going to find that most of them do not cost any money, or they cost very little money. No one says that buying that new couch brings me happiness. It does for a small period of time, and you may appreciate your couch, but at some point the newness wears off, the couch gets old, and it doesn't last. This is my favorite sweater. I wear it every week. If I didn't have this sweater, I wouldn't be any less unhappy, right? I wouldn't know the difference. And so we have to begin to figure out what makes us happy and focus our time on doing that. If we say that reading books and watching movies and taking walks and visiting family brings us happiness, but we find ourselves getting down a scroll hole on social media, then we have to ask ourselves, how can we find a way to not do that? How can we find a way to block some time out to go for a walk or to read a book or go see family? So make a list and put it somewhere where you can see it, and make an effort to do the things that bring you joy. The next one is to think about what you're giving up. Again, I think I said this earlier. A long time ago, I knew that if I was to buy a big fancy house and we could afford it based on our income, that I would be giving up working. I would work longer to pay for that. That if I go and spend a large amount of money right now on a car that's going to depreciate in value, that I am going to be probably giving up my future self time. If I take $30,000 and put it in the bank, and it earns 4% in a year, so $30,000, 4%, 3,000 is 10. Well, it's a couple of $1,000s, let's just say, or it's $1,200. I'm earning $1,200 versus paying probably $2,400 on that $30,000 in a year. So I am keeping that money in the bank to earn more money, to give me more freedom and flexibility as I get older. I would rather, so there's this woman in my town. She lives in this old house. It's like a museum. Her daughter and I are friends. And she's just as cute as she can be, but they travel all over the world. Now, they're, I would say, comfortably not well off, rich, but comfortable in a higher middle class. She gave up remodeling her house. She kept it like a 1960s time capsule in order to spend time with her family traveling. So when we are doing something, we're always giving up something else. If I make the choice to work full time, I'm giving up that time to go see my parents. I'm giving up the time to help my family. I'm giving up the time to help my husband with our business, and someone else would have to do that. Does that make sense? You have to think about, when I make this choice, what am I giving up? So I've chosen to stay home now and help my husband with our businesses. We have a roofing business and we have an Airbnb. And so that takes me, it's about a part-time job, right? But I'm giving up having a lot of extra money to have fancy clothes or to take more trips. But I don't care as much, right? I don't care about those things as much as I value having the time to read, to watch movies, to go check on my family that lives here. I can still figure out ways to go see my family that lives far away. I just may not do it as often or for longer periods of time, or it may look different. It may look like staying with my son at his house and borrowing one of his cars, rather than staying at an Airbnb and renting a car, which he has an extra car. That's doable. The next thing is to think about how you're paying by the hour for something. And if I buy this book, and this book is $20, and I make $20 an hour, I have to work more than an hour to pay for it because of taxes. So after I get paid that $20, they take out 25%. I'm actually making $15. So do I want to get paid in the book? So if I can't say you can pay me by giving me a book instead of money, then I probably don't want to buy that thing. You have to, everything you buy, think about how many hours of my life did I give to have that thing, because money is just an exchange of energy. And so that's how I have, when I learned that, it changed my life. That was from a book called Your Money or Your Life, which I highly recommend. That just taught me a lot about consumerism and how we are always trading our time for things, and we can trade our time for experiences, but we have to decide. If my bills are very low, in which my husband and I have been on, I've been on this path since I was in my 20s. My husband and I have only been together 11 years, but we worked really hard to get to a point where we have no mortgage. We only have our monthly bills and, taxes, insurance, groceries, utilities, things like that. Our expenses are so low now that we can save most of our income, which will buy us time in the future. I hope this makes sense. The other thing I wanted to mention earlier about knowledge is understanding how consumerism and greed affects other people. So it affects non-renewable resources. So when I go down and I cut down all the trees because I need to replace my bedroom set every 3 years, or I need to build a house cheaply and then have to get in another one every 5 years and have to make all these repairs, what I'm doing is I'm using up, they may be renewable resources, but not at the rate that we are using them up. So that's why when you drive around my state that used to be full of hardwood forest, they're clear cutting everywhere. They're taking the trees because they cannot keep up with the production, the high production of paper, building materials, furniture. It's why you see so much furniture today that's not solid wood. Yet when I go to a flea market and I buy that piece of furniture, I buy that side table that I wanted at a flea market, and that side table is, I'm looking at one I have over there, is 60 years old, and I paid $100 for it. I don't have to cut down a tree to do that. We tried to save the house that we purchased on this property, and we could not, and we had to end up building a house. It was something I didn't want to do. I've done it before. I knew it wouldn't bring me happiness. So we decided to build much less house than we could have had. So by all accounts and standards, we could have had twice as much house, much fancier house than we have, but we chose not to because we didn't want to use more resources. We used recycled where we could. All the wood you see on my house is what is considered second grade lumber. It's kind of the leftover wood they can't sell. And we stained and painted it, and sometimes little pieces of it fall out, little wood holes, and that's okay. It's just natural beauty. We did the best we could to use recycled. My sink is recycled. A lot of the things when you walk around my house are recycled materials, or they're made from recycled materials. Like my flooring is made from recycled material. So having the knowledge of how your choices, I'm sorry about my dog, impact other people. And with that, I'll let it go. Please like and subscribe. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.